Hi friends, welcome back to Table Full of Joy. I'm Cheryl, and this week we are in week number 3 of our December baking challenge for St. Jude Children's Hospital. And today we are doing some little apple hand pies. So we are going to get started with our dough. We're going to do our 2.5 cups of flour. I had to think, it's been a long day. So there is our flour. We're going to put in our 2 teaspoons of sugar. And we are going to do our 1 teaspoon of salt. Salt is important when you are baking sweet things because the salt helps to balance out all of the sweetness that's in things. So it's always important to add your salt to those things. So we are going to take our pastry blender here. We're just going to mix these things around real quick. And then we are going to take our 1 cup of cold butter. Now this recipe originally calls for a 1/2 cup of butter and a 1/2 cup of shortening. I typically like to just use all butter. That's just me. But if you want to use half shortening, half butter, by all means go ahead. It's your kitchen. Do exactly what makes you happy. But for today, I am using all butter because that is what I like to use in pie crust. So that's what we are going to do. So we're going to go ahead and cut this into small little pieces because we really need to make sure that our butter is in small bits so that we are able to cut this into the flour, and it's not going to take a really long time. We don't want to have to take a super long time cutting this into our flour because we need our butter to stay nice and cold. So here's 1/2 cup. We're going to drop that in there. Why is it your nose always itches as soon as you start doing something in the kitchen? I don't understand that, but it does. All right, so here's our other 1/2 cup. We're going to cut this. Hand pies are super fun to do. If you are serving a lot of people, you want to have something fun for dessert and not have to worry about doing a huge pie, this is a great dessert to do. I love doing hand pies. It's a nice individual. You can do lots of fun things with them. You can do just like we're going to do, or we're going to do just a really simple cinnamon and sugar on top, but you can also take these and do a little bit of a glaze on them if you want something a little bit more special. But we are going to do just our simple egg wash on them with our cinnamon and sugar on top, and we're going to call it good. So our butter was nice and cold and it's starting to not want to stick together, so we're just going to cut this real quick. Try not to handle this any more than I absolutely have to. Okay. I think it's probably something to do with the flour. I don't know if I'm allergic to flour, like getting it on my skin or what it is, but I start working with flour and my nose just starts to itch like crazy. All right, so we're going to cut this butter into our ingredients. Remember, we have our flour, our sugar, and our salt in here. So we're going to go ahead and cut this butter into it. We want to make sure that we have a good mixture. Make sure that our butter is cut into it nice and small so that we have almost pea-sized pieces of butter cut into our flour. There's that flour again. Holy cow. All right, so this usually takes a few minutes to do this because you really want to take the time, because you could do this quickly and you're not going to wind up with the right consistency with your flour and your butter mixture. So we really, really want to make sure that we're taking the few minutes that it takes to really get our flour mixed into our butter, that we have a nice texture to this, that our butter is nice and mixed in. But it's worth it, just like I said, to take the time to do this and really take your time to get it mixed in. Because the last things we want is big, huge, we don't want big pockets of butter because then that's going to really expand and you're going to wind up with a lot of liquid in your dough, and we don't want that either. We really want to have a good mixture of really small bits of butter mixed into our flour. If you watched our dog food video a couple of days ago, you can hear one of them playing in the living room. They just like to make sure that their presence are known. But that is completely fine with me. All right, this is looking really good. We're almost there. Just a little bit more. And then the last thing that goes in this for the dough is just ice cold water. Make sure that your water is super, super, super cold. So I'm waiting. We are in the middle of winter right now, and our temperatures are super, super cold right now. Probably not super cold compared to some parts of the country, but for us, it's super cold out right now. And so I'm just gonna pull it straight out of the tap, and that's going to give me the right temperature of water. This looks really good. All right, so we're gonna take our pastry billet, let's put this in the sink. We're gonna grab some really cold water. We need a half a cup of super cold water. All right, I'm kind of old school when it comes to doing pastry flour or pastry for pies. I like to just use a fork. So we're just gonna put in about half of our water, and we're just gonna give our dough a quick little mix. Make sure that this gets kind of coated, that our water is coating it. Okay, that is, all right, so we're gonna add the last little bit of our water in this, and this is gonna give us our nice and flaky pie dough that we're gonna make our little apple hand pies. So I am all about not dirtying up any more dishes than we absolutely have to. So we're gonna get our dough mixed up. We're gonna leave this sitting right here while we mix up our apple mixture, because it's not gonna take that long. But this looks like we have this pretty close to done. So let's get this all off our fork. We need to put down just a tiny bit of flour down here so it doesn't stick to our board. And the other thing, I always forget to do this. I need to take my rings off. I don't need pie dough in my rings. All right, so we have a little bit of flour down. We are gonna bring, let's work in the bowl real quick and just see how we are for texture. This is actually looking pretty good. We're gonna use our hands just a little bit to kind of pull this together. And then we're gonna use our board. But it looks like we are getting a nice mixture of our dough with our butter and our sugar and our salt. Let's grab the last little bit out of this bowl. So we're gonna put just a little bit of flour in with our apples to make our pie filling. So I am all about not dirtying up any more dishes than we need to. So I'm just gonna kind of form this quickly into a ball. Trying not to add any more flour than I really need to, but I don't want this to stick to our board either. So this is looking pretty good. All right. So we're gonna rinse our hands real quick. We're gonna grab a little saran wrap. We're gonna throw this in the fridge so it can stay cold. We've got our saran wrap. We're gonna wrap up our dough real fast, because I really wanna make sure that this stays nice and cold to make our pies. So we're just gonna pick this up. I'm gonna wrap this up nice and tight. We're just gonna stick this in our refrigerator so it stays nice and chilled until we get our apples done. All right, let's grab our knife here. We're gonna grab our bench scraper. So we're gonna go ahead and just scrape this off into our garbage. Just like that. We're gonna keep this out because we may need this. But right now we are going to start off with our apples. I love my apple slicer. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one. These are amazing tools. It makes things like this super, super easy so that you're not standing there taking forever cutting your apples. We are still going to take the core off, or I mean the skin off of it, because we don't need that. But I would rather work quicker and just use our apple core slicer to do these, and then we can just take our knife or our apple peeler, whatever you want to use, and peel off that little bit of skin that's on the outer edge of these. So we're just going to take our apple, or take our peeler, and let's just go ahead and peel this real quick. You could peel the whole apple, but it's just really up to you, whatever you want to do. We're going to take this. I need a little bit smaller pieces because these are small pies. So I really need to take each one of my pieces that my apple core gave me, and we're actually going to cut these in a little bit smaller chunks. Because like I said, these are little hand pies, and so we don't need big, huge chunks. We're not going for an apple pie itself. We're doing a little apple pies. So we're just going to peel off this little bit of skin real quick. If you don't get all of it, it's totally fine. It's not a big deal. We just lost a piece. But we want to make sure we get this nice and small so that this is going to wind up being the perfect size for our pie crust, because they are going to be perfectly round. We're going to use our cookie cutter like this. It's going to take 2 of those because we're going to make little round ones. So let's get the rest of these peeled, and we'll get these in our pie filling, and we'll get our pie filling finished. All right, so we have our apples all ready to go. We have our 1/4 cup of sugar. We have our 2 tablespoons of flour. We have, it's supposed to be nutmeg, but I'm going to add a little bit of allspice. I cannot find my nutmeg. I know I have some in there, but I'm just going to put just a tiny bit of allspice in here. And then we're going to add our cinnamon. I love cinnamon in apple pie. And we are going to add, it doesn't call for it, but we are going to actually add a pinch of salt, because salt brings out the flavor in our sweet things. We're also going to add a little bit of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. Let's get our seeds out real quick. There we go. We're going to add just a little bit of lemon. Okay. I don't think we got any seeds in. We actually did get a seed, and I found it in amongst the flour. How about that? All right, we're gonna grab a spatula real quick so that we can mix. So the lemon is gonna actually help our apples stay nice and bright. We're not gonna have yellow, or not yellow, but browning on our apples. So we've got those all mixed up. All right, let's clean up our little bit of a mess we've got going on here with all this extra stuff. We're gonna move our apples down. We wanna make sure we don't have any extra liquid on our board here that we're gonna roll our flour out on. And we need to grab just a little bit of extra flour so that we can roll our pie dough out. All right, we don't need a whole lot, but we do need a little bit. We're gonna grab our pie dough out of our refrigerator. We kept it in here so that it was staying nice and cold for us, so that we weren't having to deal with it being super soft from sitting out while we were dealing with all of our apples. All right, so we are gonna take this, we're gonna work with just half of our dough at a time. So we're just gonna cut this in half. We're gonna wrap the other half out so it doesn't dry out. And we're gonna take our dough, let's just take our hands real quick and just kind of form this into a nice ball. And then we are gonna take our flour. Let's get a little bit of flour on our rolling pin so we can roll out our dough. This is looking good. So for these, you want these out, we want them rolled out about 1/8 of an inch is about the thickness that we want to go with our dough, because these are not going to cook as long as an actual pie is going to cook. So we need to make sure that they are thin enough that our dough is going to get all the way cooked while we are letting our apples cook as well. So we just need to make sure we have enough time for everything to cook. This is looking really good. And like I said, we are going to take 2 of each of these to make our pies. We can go just a tiny bit thinner. Let's go a little bit thinner on this end. It feels like it's a little bit thicker, and I think that's probably good. So we're going to take this, put a little bit of flour right here on our board so we can. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cut our rounds out. And like I said, it's going to take 2 of these per hand pie that we make. So we've got 1 round, and we're just going to keep cutting these out with our cookie cutter. And let's go ahead and stack these so that we know how many we've got. These are looking really nice. All right, so that roll gave us 4. So we're gonna go ahead and just gently, you don't wanna like mash this hard. We're just gonna gently put this together so that we can roll this out one more time. Let's get a little more flour on our board. Probably gonna have to get a little more flour, but we're gonna get this rolled out one more time so that we can cut out some more of our rounds that we need. Let's go ahead and roll this out one more shot. And then we can take our next piece and we'll go ahead and cut out as many as we need from that one. We'll get this all, let's see. All right, let's go ahead and cut out one more here. And we're gonna need to pull this up together again so that we can roll out another one. This is beautiful dough. I'm super happy with this dough. We're gonna put these on some parchment paper, and we're gonna fill these on our parchment paper so that we don't have to move them once we get them filled, because they're gonna be super delicate once we get that done. All right, so let's cut one more. All right, so this gives us 3 right here. So let's get a little more flour. Let's get a little more flour down. And we're gonna pull our second half. We're gonna just give this a little bit of a squeeze together so that we get it in a ball. We're gonna flatten it out just a little bit, and then we're gonna come in with our rolling pin and we're gonna start rolling this out. And we can see some beautiful pieces of butter in our dough, which is exactly what we want, because your dough should have those chunks of butter in it that really give it a really nice flaky texture with your crust. But we want to make sure that we get this rolled out thin enough is the secret. So make sure that we're getting this rolled out to about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. this is looking really good. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut as many more as we can out of this half. Let's get our dough out. These are looking super good. I am very happy with how these are turning out. These are going to be really good little hand pies. So there's another one. So it looks like we're going to have about 8 of these to auction off tonight for the St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which is super great. Let's grab a little bit more flour. We're going to go ahead and start to flatten this out again. Let's give this a roll. I want to make sure we get this all rolled out so that we end up with an equal number, so that we can have an equal number of hand pies and we're not left with one piece. Although we probably could make a half of one if we had to, if we had a little extra, we could probably do that. But this is looking super, super good. All right, let's give it a little bit more roll on this corner down here. This is another secret when you're doing pie dough. Make sure that you are having it moving all the time, because the pie dough, if it's not moving, it's gonna stick, and we don't want that. So here's our cutter. Let's see, we've got all right, so that gives us 2, 4, that gives us 6. Here's half of the 7th one. Let's go ahead and do one more, see if we can get one more round out of this. And then we will move on with getting our hand pies made. Let's go ahead and roll this out. See if we can get one more round done. But this is looking really, really nice. These are going to be super tasty. Whoever wins these is going to be super excited to have these. All right, so we're going to get one more round out of this. All right, there we go. So we got 2, 4, 6, we got 7 of our hand pies. So we will probably auction off 6 of them, just because you never know if one of them is not going to work. But we're going to get our things cleaned up here. We're going to get our sheet pan out, and we're going to get these ready to go in the oven. All right, so we have our pie dough on our sheet pan. We're going to grab a brush. We're going to put 1 egg in a little bowl. We're going to put in just a little bit of milk, and this is going to be our egg wash that we're going to put around the edge of these. We're going to mix this up real quick. That looks good. So we're just going to use our same fork to do our crimping around the edge. Let's grab a little knife, because before we fill these, we are going to go around each one of these, and we're going to put our little vent holes on these. So we want to make sure that we have plenty of vent holes on these so that they have enough room for the steam to come out so that they don't explode. Because apple pies, any kind of pie, will actually explode in your oven if you don't have enough vent holes in it. So let's make sure we have enough vent holes in it. Okay, and then we are going to divide up our apple filling. Let's give it one more stir real quick so that we have all of our seasonings mixed in here. This looks really good. All right, so we're going to grab just a spoon. We have our spoon right here, and we're just going to come in with our apple filling, and we're going to fill these up. just like that. We can kind of overfill them just a hair because we can tint our dough right over the top of them and they should be fine. We want these to have plenty of apple filling in them. We don't want the apples to cook out and have there be little to no filling inside our apple hand pies. So let's make sure that we're getting plenty of filling in these, and these are going to be super tasty. Let's get them nice and full. Still leave a little bit of room around the edges so that we can get our tops on them. It looks like we're going to have a little bit of filling left over, which is totally fine because I will make some more of these possibly tomorrow with our little extra filling that we've got, but we're going to get enough filling in these. Or like I said, you want to make sure that you have enough filling in them because they are going to cook down a little bit, and when they cook down you end up with a hand pie that really doesn't have a whole lot of filling. It's all dough, and nobody wants all dough. So we're going to make sure that we get plenty of apples in this. Let's get a little bit more in this one over here. I think we can put just a little bit more right here. All right, so we're going to take our egg wash and we're going to go around the outer edge of these with our egg and milk mixture. And this is what's going to be our glue to get our top crust to stick. Let's get these on here. And then we're going to actually give these a little bit of an egg wash on top. That's going to help our cinnamon and sugar adhere to the little pies. And that's going to give them a nice golden color when they come out of the oven. So let's get our egg wash on here. Okay, that looks good. All right, so let's take our tops and we're going to get our tops put on top of our little pies. Make sure we have all of our filling in here. Everything is in there. We're going to take our tops and we're going to stretch these. We're going to stretch them over the top. We're going to take our fork and we're going to crimp our edges all the way around our little hand pies. We want to make sure that we have a good tight seal all the way around these. Okay, perfect. All right, let's get one more done. Like I said, let's stretch our fabric or dough if we have to get it all the way around. And then we're going to take our fork and we're going to go around it just like we did the other one. Let's get this crimped all the way around our dough so we have a good tight seal all the way. Now you probably will still have some leakage out, which is fine because it's going to happen regardless of how tight of a seal you end up with. You're still going to have some that's going to leak out. That's just part of the process. There's not really a whole lot you can do about that unless you make your dough or make your filling super dry, which I don't want a dough that is super dry. I want to have some moisture in this. So we're going to go ahead and deal with a little bit of leakage on our hand pies. So we're going to get this one on. And let's go ahead and crimp our edges down on this side. Get this all crimped down. Make sure we're getting all of our apples tucked in there. Spin our pie pan around if we need to, so that we make sure we're getting all of this tight. So we've got a little spot right here that needs a little help. You're just going to look at your pie crust as you look at these. Go around and look at them and make sure that if they have a little space that needs a little bit of help, then just kind of stretch your dough out a little bit and kind of help get these crimped down so they're nice and tight and you've got all of your filling inside. So like this one needs a little bit of help getting it in there. So we're gonna go ahead and just crimp that. Get our edges crimped. All right, we've got 2 more to do. Let's get this one done. Let's make sure we have all of our apples tucked inside before we start our crimping process. So then let's just take our fork, go around our dough. We want to make sure we're getting all of this crimped nice and tight all the way around. These are looking super, super good. Last one, our little guy over here on the corner. Let's get our apples tucked in nice and tight. Let's get our pie dough put on there. And let's just go around it real quick with our fork. So we end up with a good tight seal all the way around. Like I said, you are going to wind up with a little bit of leakage. That's just pie crust. You just can't help that. All right, so we have a little bit of our egg wash left here. Let's give this another little brush. And we're just going to go over the top of these real quick with our egg wash. Go over your seams again and the tops. Make sure that we're getting it all brushed. This is going to help our cinnamon and sugar stick. These are looking really tasty. These would be good with a nice cup of hot coffee. Nothing goes better with sweets than hot coffee. So we're going to get these all brushed. Okay, those look really good. Let's take our fork and just kind of stir our cinnamon and sugar around. All right, now we're just going to take our cinnamon and sugar and we're going to go over the top of these. We want to have a good texture on top. When that cinnamon and sugar caramelizes, we end up with a nice crunchy top on our apple pies. And these are going to bake about 15 or 20 minutes. And they're going to come out looking nice and golden brown. And like I said, if they have a little bit of leakage on them, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's just part of making pie. All right, so here's what these look like. These are going in the oven, 350 for about 15-20 minutes, and we'll come see what they look like. Ready to pull these out of the oven. Oh my gosh, these look so good. See those? Aren't those beautiful? So we are going to finish these off after they cool with just a little bit of probably some icing or something just to dress them up a little bit for the auction, but these are done. Essentially, we didn't have a whole lot of leakage, which is really nice. It looks like the juice really stayed in pretty well. So we are good on that. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me in my kitchen tonight as we made some beautiful hand pies for our St. Jude's December baking challenge. Not a kitchen, baking challenge, that's what it is. So anyway, it means a lot to me that you guys would spend time with me in my kitchen. I hope you guys will join me again sometime soon. And if you haven't yet already, please give my channel a like and a subscribe so you don't miss out. We are getting ready to start some amazing Christmas recipes starting this next week. We have a lot of fun baking we're gonna do, and I wanna be able to share those recipes with you guys. So make sure that you like and subscribe. And I hope you guys all have a great weekend. Thanks, friends.